And next up, as cattle producers settle into the dog days of summer, several factors continue to influence markets in both the short and long term. Drought and poor pasture conditions are taking their toll, resulting in a larger number of cows being sent to market than in years past. Additionally, higher feed costs are putting pressure on feeder cattle prices. Mike Briggs over at Briggs Feedyard in Seward joined me this week to shed some light on what he's seeing and the big market movers that he's following.
A lot of stuff going on right now. Of course, everybody's always concerned with the current cash market. You know, that's always a question of what's going on. Right now, with a 594 high pressure system sitting in, everybody's focused really hard on the corn price because that has been extremely volatile this year. I think will continue to be volatile and affects your cost of gain rather dramatically, so guys have to pay attention to that. Then, of course, if you're trying to buy feeder cattle right now, you can't buy a margin to save your life. Well, when can we buy some cattle that makes some sense? And wish I knew. Seems kind of difficult right now, and I think it's going to be tough as we go forward because one of the things that's been going on over the last couple of years is we've started to slaughter more and more cows. Well, as you do that, your pool of feeder cattle gets a little smaller, and I think that's going to come to a head next year.
You've talked before about how a lot of your customer base, if they're making a good profit with corn and the way the prices are right now, then they don't want to give that back to feed the cattle. Are you seeing that right now?
Oh, you're always dealing with that because when corn's high, the farmer feeder guy, he doesn't want to feed cattle. Sell that corn, go sit in the coffee shop or whatever they do. But that's always a challenge. Conversely, like if feeders are really high, I have talked customers out of feeding their cattle because I'm like, there's no way you're going to make any money on those. Sell them. Call it good. I just advised somebody that the other day. They've got some cattle on grass. And these feeder cattle are so unbelievably high. Not only do they not have any margin, they have huge negative margins in them. I'm like, why would you want to bring those here? Sell them. Be done with it. And so you're always having those conversations with your customers if you're going to be honest with them. And I always try to be best I can.
And you just mentioned margins. Anything else you want to say on that?
It's just really difficult. Your corn is all over the place, and conversely, so is your distiller's grains or your co-products. And then there's just so much demand for feeder cattle right now. It's really difficult to buy anything that makes any sense. But July is always the hardest time to buy feeder cattle because everybody's looking. Now, when we get later in August, after some of the corporates get their belly full, kind of let the rest of us live a little bit, you're going to see an increasing amount of cattle come to market for various reasons. One, just the time of the year, but also where it's getting drought. Those cattle are coming. That makes me a little concerned as we go forward that we're going to pile up some cattle maybe on the fat. When they get fat, we might have a little bit of them piled up there a little bit, but we'll see what happens.
And Mike, we are recording this interview before the release of the eagerly awaited cattle inventory report at the end of the month. Any expectations on what we could see for when that comes out?
Yeah, the cattle inventory report. People may be surprised how much our cow numbers have fallen because this drought isn't just the first year. This was kind of starting a little bit last year in places. It's really hard for the rancher right now to make very much money. He's got higher input costs and lower selling. They were lower, but now the feeder cattle prices are coming up. But those guys have been getting squeezed a little bit, and anytime you have to start buying feed for a cow, it's better to send her down the road. So I think you could be surprised at where our cow inventory is, conversely than your total cattle numbers. But I think you're going to see a foreshadowing of what's to come in the future here as we get tighter and tighter numbers.
Anything you're watching with beef demand as we move through the rest of the summer and head into Labor Day?
I am, because eventually, and you're going to see this in the upcoming cattle on feed, our cattle on feed numbers keep dropping. Well, okay, then as you go out, your fat numbers or your cattle for sale or fat cattle for sale is going to drop. And somewhere here, you're going to hit that crossroads where this price really kind of zooms higher. I don't know where that is. There's a lot of people talking about $1.40, $1.50 cattle this winter. But it always concerns me when they do that, especially when we already have a carry in the market. The deferred futures are at a premium to the nearby, because every time we set that up like that, that's just like a carrot on a stick for people to place cattle. They place the cattle and you get there and the carrot's gone. So I really implore guys to be really careful with the risk management, because you've got deferred prices up 135, 138, bumping up against 140. I don't even know the last time we sold cattle that high, probably never. So you got to be a little careful with what they're hanging out in front of you to coax you into feeding cattle.
There's so much going on in the industry right now with the drought and possible herd liquidation. Feed prices always an issue. What's the big story you're going to be following for the second half of 2021?
You know, it's going to be all of it. Yeah, I think you're just going to have to watch when you see demand come back. You know, there's a lot of fears right now because of the Delta variant, and we're going to shut the economy down again. Hopefully that's not the case, because nobody that owns a business or the American public needs to go through that again. But I think right now you're seeing a little bit of a fear where yesterday I had the stock market down 800 points. If we can level that out, then we can start that ball rolling back up again, I think, because this economy's got a long ways to go to recover, and hopefully it can if the government doesn't throw too many roadblocks in there.